Okay, welcome back. Today, I want to talk more about methods. This paragraph that we define inside of classes. So far, I hope that you noticed that basically the communication that we establish between different classes and even between our programs, one class, and the libraries that we're using is using methods. That is the only link that connect two different files, two different classes. Because inside of one class, one of the methods, maybe main, is calling another method that could be inside of the same class, or maybe in another class that we have, or maybe in a library. What I am talking about, you can have a class and always one of your classes is going to have this method main. And we can connect this class with other classes or with other methods in the same class. But right now I am going to work with other classes just to show what we have been doing in the previous 2 days. We did more classes in our programs. We have been working with this and we can define methods in that class. We have been working with variables. That is fine. Let's put some methods here with student. I am going to use one static and one that is not static. Now, if I want to do something in this class, in main, that help me to call this method M. So I would like to go from this class, jump to this other class, is a different file. And in particular, I want to jump here to this method, do whatever is inside, and then come back and continue in the next line after I call the method. I need that you have clear what is happening there. This idea of calling the method is jumping, do the method, the instructions, and then go back. Moreover, at this point, I hope that you can tell me how to call this method M. Remember, the name is not relevant. That is static, and moreover, is in a different class. Something that I hope you have in your mind right now is, number one, you need the name of the method. In this case, you know that in order to complete this call, you need to use M. And so far, we have been using the empty parentheses. We need to talk more about that parenthesis today. Second, I need you to remember the dot. The only reason because we have the dot and something else is because the method is in a different file. If I put that method M inside of the blue class, the only thing that I need to do is to put the name of the method and the parentheses. However, it's in a different class. I need to put something else before the dot. Now, in this particular case, it's static. Yesterday we talked about this. It's static. It's a method for the class. It's a class method, just like the class variables. It's a class method. It's unique. Before calling the method, I need to do the same thing that you have been doing in the previous 4 weeks. And as you help me in the chat, I need to put the name of the class before the name of the method. So several concepts here. Number one, because it's static, you put the name of the class. Because it's in a different file, you put the dot and then the name. And the consequences is what I draw with the red color. Jumping to the file, executing that paragraph, that method. And then when we finish, go back. Now, go back and just like in all our previous programs, this go back is go back with empty hands. In the same way that I jump with empty things. Something that we reviewed yesterday, and I am going to make that change here, just as an example, is what happened if one of the methods, M, want to share something with the method that make the call. In programming, we call this action return something. And return something is because, think about it, this guy, main, is the one that starts everything. Is the one that is calling me, is giving me the opportunity to do something. And I want to return something, to give something back. Yesterday I mentioned this, and I mentioned, well, 2 things that you need to do if you want your method, in this case M, to return something, to give back something. I am going to give you an easy example. I would like, instead of this just going back, I would like this guy to go back, but going back, returning a number 5. Just easy as that. Return a number 5, which means that something that I can do is to create a variable A, and that variable A I can make equal to whatever student.m return. And as I am telling, it's going to return this number 5. Did you notice the change? Number 1, in the previous one, return nothing, empty, use all your programs in the previous 4 weeks. Now, I am planning to return something like the number 5. Because I am planning to return something, to put something here in the back part, well, it's a good idea to have a variable to catch that something. Because the red part, this one, is the one that is going to give me back this number 5. I need to put that number 5 in some place, well, in a variable. Now, this is what I put in the main. In the other method, there are something that I need to do. Number 1, if I want to return something, well, I need help, and the help is a new instruction, the instruction that we reviewed yesterday, the instruction return. And if I want to return a number 5, is as easy as return 5 and the semicolon. All the instructions end with the semicolon, remember? So instruction, return. And then what do you want to return? In this case, 5. But you can think about returning the value of a variable, or hello, a string, or a character. You can return whatever you want. Just put the keyword return, and then what you want to return. Now, another change, the last one. When you do not want to give back anything, and that is something that we did 4 weeks, we use this keyword here, void, empty. Do you remember that we mentioned in the week 1, void is empty? Empty what? Empty your hands when you return. You return nothing. Returning nothing. Giving back nothing is this void. Now, if I am asking to return the number 5, well, you need to tell me the type of the information that you need to return. You want to return a 5? 5 is a number. In particular, an integer number, or a long number, or a byte, or a short. Do you remember? We have at least 4 types for integers. I am going to play easy, and I am going to think that this 5 is an integer. Something that we need to do is, well, you know what? Right now, I do not want this void anymore, because now I want to return something. What? Well, according with this, I want to return an integer. With this in here, with this return here, now I have a method that I can call, and that method is going to return to me every single time the number 5. And I can catch that number 5 in a variable. So the most important thing that I want you to notice, we have 2 different files, and one file can share information with another file. The file here is in the class student, in a file student.java, and it's going to be stored in a variable A that is in a class room, in a room.java file. 2 different files sharing information. That is what you get when you return things from one method to the other. Yes, it's going to be 5 because we're returning just like that, a number 5. Yes, we can put any instruction in the black method. So I can put here is going to be executed. Moreover, in the main, if I go here, I can do system out println, and in particular, what about printing A? And if I print A, it's going to print this 5. That is the value that you receive from here. Sharing information between classes using the return of one method to another method. This is very, very important. Now, I am playing safe because I am returning the 5, easy one. But also, question in the chat, if we have the print statement, help me a little bit, a print statement where? After the return or before the variable? Tell me exactly where do you want to put the print statement? Before in the classroom or in the class student? Student, like 1, 2, 3, which position? And printing what? In the 2, okay, if I put here, if I print what? System out println, the variable A do not exist here. I mean, whatever if I try to do something here with a variable a, the variable a do not exist there. It's going to be an error. The variable a is here. The variable a is a variable in the classroom, but the class student do not have that variable. Think about this, and this is important. Imagine that room is this guy here. One of you, one student. And that student have a box. And this box, this student put the name A to the box, whatever. And then I have another guy here, another student. I am going to use the name of the classes. Think about each class, each file, like one of these little guys. And this guy have this ball and put here a number 5 and basically send the number 5, throw the ball. And this is the guy that is going to catch that ball and is going to read the information, and the information is the number 5 in a box. And the box is the one that have the name A. If you ask this guy about a box with the name A, this guy is going to say, what are you talking about? Because the only thing that I did, this one, is I have a number 5, I put the 5 in a ball, I throw the ball, I don't know what is going to happen with that ball, and this is the one using something with the name A. So remember that thing. Each class has its own variables. Something that I can do is, thinking about this, I can do, and I need some space here. I can have a variable here. Int w. And that variable w could be equal to 1. I am just playing. I create a local variable, if w is equal to 1, whatever. Can I do return? Notice that I am using the same line, but I have the semicolon. The enter is not mandatory. I am fine, even though it could be better to use another line, but I am trying to save space. Can I return w, for instance? I can. Now, I am really returning w. Following my example of the ball, what I am returning, and this is important, red color. What I am returning is the number 1. But it's w, and you're using w. Yeah, this guy have a box, w, a variable, remember? A variable is a space in the memory. What you return is the value that you have inside of that box. When you return, what you're returning is the value, the number 1. When you print here A, it's going to print 1, not W. So again, in my example, I have a box with a number 1 inside, and I am going to return the 1, and then someone else is going to catch that thing that I sent, and that thing is going to be the number 1, and maybe that guy is going to store that 1 in a box with the name A or whatever. The names of the variables is up to each class. What you are returning, sending back and forward, is the values inside those variables, those boxes, those spaces in your memory. Well, the only reason, because we put int here, the only reason is to be able to use return and put here integer values. This int here is connected with this line here, return. When you put here void, basically is I am not going to use return. In all your previous methods, we never use the instruction return. Never. And that is because we put the void. If we do not want to use return, we put void. Inside of the method, we can put the prints or whatever we want. The only thing is we cannot use return if we put void. Now, in this example, I want to put return. Therefore, I remove the void. Now, I want to use return. And after the keyword return, I need to put something. I want to put integers. Okay, I change the void for integers. Oh, I would like to return by hello, some string. I can put a string. No, you know what? I want to return a character. I want to return A, B, C, D. Put char. Is if you put void, you cannot use return. If you want to use return, return with what? Okay, whatever is the type of that what, put that instead of the void. But you can use print in both cases. You can use if case, for loops, any other instruction, doesn't matter that you have void or something else. The only thing that is going to change is whether or not you can use return. That's it. Oh, I need to play with W. Wait a minute. I am going to play with W, and I need to show you something with W. So far, it's like I am playing with M, only with M. Good? So, one, this idea of getting things back. What happened with W? So far it's void. Because it's void, I cannot return anything, which is fine. I can use W with a print here. And I am fine. Nothing related with this new idea of returning things. Now, my first problem, before I start playing with the return, if I would like to call W in my program, and I need more space here, this is the closing of my main, this is the closing of my class. You know what? Somehow here, I would like to call my method W. And again, I would like to call W, but W is in a different file, it's in another class. Therefore, I need to use the dot, right? And something before the dot. Now, yesterday we reviewed this. If my method is static, like M, what I use before the dot is the name of the class because it's a class method. What happened with a method, just like the ones that we reviewed yesterday, Monday, that now I remove the static because this W is not static. What do I need to do in order to be able to use W? Because hopefully you agree with me that if I put here student dot W, that is an error. That is wrong. And the reason because it's wrong is because W is not static. And if I use the class name before, the method should be static, according with all the description that we reviewed yesterday. So this is wrong. This cannot work. This is going to be something that your compiler is going to complain about. Okay, I cannot do that. But if I cannot do that, then what can I do? And you give me the answer. That one, the method that do not have the static is an object method. Remember? A non-static method. And in order to call a non-static method, what I need to put here is the name of an object. An object. Yes, just like yesterday, X and Y, or in other examples, John and Jane. So Jane.w, Jane, an object. Well, I need to create the object Jane. The only thing that I know is that the object is going to be Jane. And I need to remember, you need to remember for the exam, you need to put something before Jane, and you need to put something after Jane, right? To complete the statement. So before, Jane is an object. An object is like a variable. What you need to put before the name is the type. For a variable, you put the type of the variable, float, int, double, and so on. For an object, you put the name of the class that you're going to use as a template to create the object. In this case, Jane is going to be a student. So you put student. Why student? Because we want to call the method W, and W is in the class student. We're playing with the student, not with the room yet. In some point, could be possible to create an object room, but not here. Why not here? I described this yesterday. There is no reason to create an object room, because room do not have any method, room do not have any variable. Room as an object is going to be an object that have nothing. Nothing? Yes, nothing. Because remember that the void main is static, and the static method, used like the static variables, are not inside, are not included in the objects that you create. The objects only have those variables and those methods that are not static. That is the reason because they are called object variables or object methods. So in this case, student Jane, because I want to use W. W is in a student, is an object method. It's going to be available through the object Jane. Make sense? So next, Jane is a student, but in order to create an object, we need a particular instruction here, remember? Equal. Always, always, always. If you are creating an object, the keyword for do that is this new. And if you remember, you need to tell the computer that you are sure that you want a student. So yes, Jane is student Jane, the type is a student, and then you make equal new what? Student. Parenthesis, semicolon. The first line, this one, create a new object, a new instance, and then you use that one to call W. And all of this just because W do not have the keyword static. All of that because this one W is an object method. This M is a class method. For the class method, you use the name of the class. For the object method, you need to create an instance, student instance. That's it. Now, can I use an object method to return something? And the answer is yes, in the same way that you did with the class method. So we can, this one is calling the method is going to be executed, and the method is going to return. You want to return nothing? Make it void. Use as right now. Right now is void. Right now is not returning anything. Right now is just like in all the previous examples that we have reviewed. You know what? I really would like to return something. I really would like to have, you know what, this method, I want the method to return me something. And in particular, I am thinking like this something could be, what about a string, and the string hi. I want a method, and I want the method to return me hi, just like that, hi. Notice that I am giving you examples of different values that do not have any meaning yet, but we're going to review examples in which we apply this to something in practice. Right now, just to show the rule, I want to return hi. Well, two things. If W is going to return hi, it could be a good idea to store that in a variable. So we can have a variable b here equal to Jane.w. B is a variable. B need a type. If W is going to return high, maybe this could be a string variable. Do you remember G option pane dot show input dialog? Hopefully right now you are visualizing that the show input dialog is a method. That method have an instruction return and is returning the string that the user put in the dialog box. And then what you are doing when you declare a variable string, whatever, equal G option pane dot show input dialog is catching that value in a variable that you create, just like right now I am doing with this variable string B. Now, if I want to have something like this, well, this method here now will need to use the return keyword. And I am asking for returning high. So it could be as easy as return space high in quotation marks. That is the reason because the G option pane always receives a string. Yes. Always, always, always. And this is a rule that you are going to follow. Whatever is the type here in the method, this was integer, right? It's going to be the type of the variable that you use to catch the value. This is a string. I am using return with a string. Because I am using return, this cannot be void anymore, right? Because if I put void there, I cannot use return. I cannot put void. I am using return. What I am going to put there to replace the void? Hopefully you agree with me. The only possible option string. Whatever you put there after public before the name of the method represent the information that you want to return. You want to return a string, put string. You want to return a number, an integer number, put int. You want to return nothing, you are not planning to return, put void. You are returning nothing. You are returning empty hands, void. No, it's a method. It's the same idea here. How do I know that it's a method, not a variable? The most important thing, because this parenthesis, the parenthesis and then the body represent this method. It's a method returning something. Why I am showing you this? Guys, you know that the variables have a type. Any variable have a type, right? Every single time that you use a variable, doesn't matter the name, you put a type for the variable. And you know why? Because the type tells you what is the type of information that you can store in that variable. News today, any method has a type also. And the type of the method represents the kind of information that that method is going to return. If you do not want to return anything, then you use as a type the type void. But if you want to return something, string, int, char, whatever, you put as a type for the method something different than void. Like in these two examples, int and string. Methods also have a type. Make sense? Okay, so you can return whatever you want. So you can create this communication between different files and you can receive something back. And exactly the same idea works. Doesn't matter that you are working with the static method or non-static method. It doesn't matter because the only thing that is going to change with the static is if you use objects or not. Now, you are telling me that if you have this classroom and if you have this class student, when I call a method here, that method can return to me something. Did you notice that something is missing here? Because we're talking about the communication between two things, and looks like this one can send information back. Do you think that could be a good idea that this one could also send information? Think about communication. I can ask you a question and you can give me an answer. I am sending information, the question, and then you give me back something. I think it could be a very good idea to be able to send something and also return something. That will complete the communication channel. Sending you things, receiving back things. Exactly. And here you can think like, well, we play with this math.sqrt, remember? And you remember that when you use that method, well, you are receiving something back, right? Now, my expectation is that you understand what is happening in order for you to receive a result when you call this method. There is a return inside of the method. Moreover, when you read this, hopefully you agree with me that this SQRT method is a static method because you are using the name of the class to call the method. Now, so far, fine. But I am sure that you remember that when you want to calculate the square root of something, you are sending that something to the SQRT method. Like you want to calculate the square root of 2. You put the 2 inside of the parentheses, right? Moreover, I am sure that you remember system out print ln. This is a method. And when you want to print high, you put high inside of the parentheses. You are sending high because you want the method to catch that high and put high on the screen. It looks like when I want to share information with the method, when I call the method, but I need to provide extra information to the method, just like this 2 or this high, some kind of input for the method. The parentheses are important. It seems like the reason because the parentheses are there is because that could be the place to share information with the method. In the previous 4 weeks, your parentheses in your methods are always empty because you call the method and you never send information to the method. Your methods are void because you never return information back. I would like to share information with my methods. I would like to do something like the following. I would like to do, and hopefully I'm going to play with, think about this is still mine, the inside of my main method. I would like to do something like class student dot add. Add is going to be the name of my method. Add 5 and 2. And the result is going to be an integer. That integer, a variable a, and that one is going to be equal, and I am going to use 2 lines, but you can think like this 2 is only 1 line, 1 instruction. Please, int a equal student dot add 5 and 2. If you read that line, it's kind of obvious. I am asking to add, and well, 2 numbers, because that is what I want to add, right? And I am expecting a result. So I am calling a method. When I call the method, I am sending this 5 and 2. I am sending 2 things. And when that method finishes, I want that method to send me back a 7. 7 just because it's the result. And that 7 is the one that I want to store in A. Sending information, receiving information. If I ask you to help me to create this method add in the class student, at this point, hopefully you follow me in the following process. Number 1, you want a method. I am still inside of my class student, so I am going to put this comment here. You want a method. So far, all the methods that we have been doing are public. So why not? Let's continue doing public methods. We need to talk about private, public, and then after public, 2 options: static or not static. What do you think? Okay, you're telling me static, and obviously I'm going to ask, why static? How do you know that the static is the correct answer for this problem here? And you can point out like, well, you want to use the name of the class to call the method. That means that the method should be static, right? And that is a very good point. It's like, why are you doing this add in particular static? Well, number 1 is because I could assume that all students add numbers in the same way. We're going to change that later, but static. After static, notice, first public, because it's the only option that you have so far. Second, it could be static or not. Is Boolean, yes or no? In this case, you help me to decide yes, so I put the static. Next, now I can ask. The next element is the data type for the method. Which options you have? Void and all the data types that you know. In this case, I want to return this 7 according with my example. The only thing that I am telling you with that is this is not going to be void. What is going to be? Integer. I agree with you. Now, remember, I want you to remember that integer is the most common data type for integer numbers, but I can put there long, short, byte, or int. For now, let's just follow the common thing, int. Public, static, int, and well, the method name should be add just because it's the name that I am using. Open parentheses. I am going to use another line just because I do not have enough space. But again, all these blue letters could be 1 line. Add. So far, always, our parentheses are empty. You want to receive information. Did you notice? You want to receive the 5, you want to receive the 2. You want 2 things that are going to be sent from the main method, and you want to catch those 2 things. if you want to catch those two things, hopefully you agree with me that you need two variables, two boxes, just because each variable is able to store one value. If I have two things here, you need two variables. If you have one thing here, one variable, 100 variables. Each thing that I put here that I want to send implies that the method have a variable to receive that thing. In fact, you have one comma here, you need one comma here. I want to receive a 5 and I want to receive a 2. I need a variable. You can use whatever name you want. I am going to use X and Y. Are you telling me that inside of the parentheses, when you call the method, you put values? But inside of the parentheses, when you are creating the method, you put variables? Yes, because the variables is the things that you want to send. But in order to receive those values, the only place in which you can put values is inside of a variable. Sending, receiving. Sending values, receiving variables, in variables. X and Y. I need something else here. X and Y. They are variables. For any variable, you need to define the data type. And if the data is 5 and 2, int X, int Y. Can you create variables inside of the parentheses of a method? Yes. There are 3 places in which you can create variables. Inside of the method, in the parentheses of the method, and the global one. The globals inside of the class. Questions for you guys. These X and Y, they are local variables or global variables? Do you remember? The globals are available for every method. The locals are only available for one particular method. These ones classify as locals. Yes, they are local variables. They are not inside of the curly bracket. No, they are in the parentheses because they are there to catch values that are going to come from outside. But they are local variables. So what I need you to understand here is this guy is going to send a 5, and this guy is going to send a 2. This method here is going to have a box, a variable with the name X, and it's going to have a box, a variable with the name Y. And this guy is going to catch the 5 there and the 2 there. How do I know that the 5 is going to be inside of the box X? Just because the order that you have here. If the first one is 5, it's going to use the first variable. If the second is 2, it's going to use the second variable. This order is the same. The same order that the information comes is the same order in which the information enters. So at the end, X is going to be equal to 5 in this example, and Y is going to be equals to 2, and they are local variables inside of this method add. Now, inside of the method add, I can work with X and Y just like with any other variable. For instance, I can do something like that. X plus Y, that is what I want to do, right? And this X plus Y is basically 5 plus 2. Something that I can do, option number 1, is to store that in another variable. And that new variable need a type. So you can have this line inside of the method. Just like local variables, but with values that come from outside. Next, because I put here int, it is mandatory because if not, your compiler is going to complain, to use the keyword return. I want to return this 7, right? If I return 7 here, it could be a very bad idea because it doesn't matter what numbers I send, I always return the 7. What I really want to return is the result of the addition. So what do you think about returning A? Now, remember, you are not going to return the box. You are going to return what is inside of the box A. You are going to open A, take the 7, and send 7 as a return. So return A. And I am sure that some of you are thinking like, you are returning A, but A is equal to X plus Y. Could you return X plus Y? I mean, just to use less variables. I am going to put this as a comment here. Return X plus Y, semicolon. The thing in blue and the thing in red are the same. You can use any of them. Return X plus Y is fine, because remember, the priority is the addition. X plus Y is 5 plus 2. It's going to be 7. At the end, I am going to return 7. That's it. In the blue, I am doing 5 plus 2 is 7, and I am going to store the 7 in a box with the name A, and then I am going to return A, and A is the name of the box that I am going to open, take the 7, and return the 7. Blue and red, they are the same. You can use one or the other. Two different things, two different ways to put the same instruction to the program. The blue one is more like step by step. The second one is a little bit more direct. Return X plus Y. The result at the end is exactly the same for the computer. Makes sense? Receiving data, returning data. Now we can use methods with communication back and forward. One last thing. These things that you put inside of the parentheses have a name. These 5, the 2, the X, and the Y have a fancy name in programming. They are called parameters or arguments. Yeah. To be honest, the common word in the last years has been parameter. Argument is kind of a little bit old school. You notice these string args in the main. Args come from arguments, but remember that thing is 1995. They are the same. Parameters or arguments, that is the name for the things that you put inside of the parentheses when you call a method or when you create a method. Parameters or arguments. Good? Inside parentheses. Yes, only the things inside of parentheses. So this A is not a parameter, it's not an argument. This A is just a trivial local variable, right? The 5 is a parameter or an argument. The 2 is a parameter or an argument. The X is a parameter or an argument. The Y is a parameter or an argument. That's it. Now, I am going to mention this just like a cultural note, but you do not need to remember this. As you notice, one thing is parentheses 5,2. I mentioned that those are parameters or arguments. And another thing is this int x, int y, that I mentioned they are parameters or arguments. So both, because they are inside of the parentheses, are called parameters or arguments, right? In particular, we have formal parameters, that is the full name, formal parameters, and actual parameters. So instead of saying, oh, I have a method with parameters, and thinking like, are you talking about the parameters that you are going to send? Or are you talking about the parameters in which you are going to receive the variables? To be specific, you can talk about the actual parameters and you can talk about the formal parameters. The formal parameters, in this case, the variables x and y. The actual parameters, the thing that you are sending, the values 5 and 2. So cultural note, big parentheses, actual parameters or actual arguments, formal parameters, formal arguments. If you read a book and you found those terms, now you know what is the meaning. The actuals, the ones that you are sending, and the formal, the name of the variables in which you are catching those values. That's it, parameters. Now, all of these work with static and with non-static methods. That is used like the return, doesn't matter. In this point, I go back to the slides, and now we can start thinking about, let's do a program. And let me be clear. When you create software, there are not one person working, but a team of persons working. And there are programmers or software engineers, fancy name, that is the people that write the software. But there are also software architects or designers, the boss. Usually, if I am going to create a software, my work is to do the blueprints, just like what an architect do in a building. You didn't see the architect with the hammer putting doors and windows. The boss usually make the blueprint and give a worker the instructions about what to do. So if I want to do something like that with you, I'm going to use fancy pictures, not blueprints. But let me share with you the big idea. If you are my team, you know what? I would like to have a program, and I am going to call that program my program. And my program is the one that is going to have this guy that you remember is my main. Now, inside of my program, I am going to be working with John, that is a student, and I need also a Jane, that is going to be another student. Moreover, you know what? I need a university, no name. I just need university, just like you use math. And you know what? Let's think about professors. And to start working, I need me as a professor. If I show you this picture, I want a program. How many classes do you need to create to make this program? Classes, how many? How do you know that I am asking for 4 classes? Well, if you follow all my explanation, it's like, okay, this guy is talking about students, is talking about universities, is talking about professors, and put the main in a place called my program. 1, 2, 3, 4. Your 4 classes, the one that you recommend to me. 4 classes. How many objects I am asking you to create? How many times are you going to use the new keyword? New, like that. Hopefully you agree with me that you're going to use new to create John, to create Jane, to create me. I am asking you for 3 objects. Notice that I didn't put any name here. I am not asking for any university yet. I just asked for a class university. But maybe I could ask for ASU as a name of an object. So you create an object ASU from the class university. But so far, 3. And my goal, guys, is at this point, you are already thinking about which are the instructions in Java to create those 4 classes with those 3 objects, and which are the method, one in particular mandatory, that you need to put there. You have a big idea, at least, kind of flashes about how this program is going to look like. Maybe this is the program. This is the output. I did the program, I run the program, and my first question is for you, is there anything in this first file? I mean, what I am showing you is this file, right? So I need to show you the others. But if I show you this one, the boss, do we understand what is happening here? Like line number 1, public class, my program. I think so far we understand that. Public static void main. I am sure that we understand that. By the way, now I can ask you, what is this thing inside of the parentheses of the main? It's a parameter. Main receive a parameter. What is the type of the parameter? A string. Do you remember that I told you in the week 1 that the only thing that you can change there is this name here? Because that one is the name of the variable. You can use args, but usually I put use a or something else. Main receive a parameter, and a string parameter. And the name usually is args, or whatever you put there. And I am sure that you are going to ask that, what is happening with the brackets? That is a topic for our week 7 or 8. The name of that is arrays. Main receive as a parameter an array of strings. What is an array? We're going to talk about that week 7 or 8. Good. But so far, my point is arguments, parameters. That is the thing that is inside of the main. Who is able to send main parameters? I do not know if sometime you have run a program from the console, from the terminal, but if you have done that, maybe in a game or something, you are in the console, in the prompt, and usually you put the name of the program, and sometimes you can put more information after the name of the program. A number, a string, some parameter. If you have done that, whatever you put after the name of the program is this string that you are sending to main, and main is going to receive inside of this variable. If you haven't done that, don't worry, you are going to do it. Maybe in a different class, but you are going to do it. So far, main receive a parameter. Let's see, inside of main. Can you explain to you what is happening between the line 5 and the line 8? You have a new object. We are creating John, right? A new object. And then we're giving John a new name. What is happening with this ID, John ID equal university dot register student? Did you notice that I create the object? I give a name, a string, the ID. If you think about this communication thing, the ID for the object John is going to be equal to something that a method in the class university is going to return to me. University.register_student is going to return something, and that something is going to be stored in the variable ID for John. Think about it. I need to give you an ASU ID. What I do, the system in the university do, is to ask the university for the next ASU available and then give it to you, and no one else is going to receive that ID. That is something that I want to create. And I fully agree with you. You are following, thank you. This register student should be a static method, a unique method, and you know that because I am using the name of the class to call that method, and hopefully you understand why that method needs to be unique, because it's the method that is returning the IDs. And we do not want more than one entity in the university giving IDs, because we do not want IDs that are duplicated, right? So one and only one, static, makes sense to have this one and only one method that return IDs to avoid things to be duplicated. Good. What do you think about student.counter++? You understand the plus plus. You know that counter is a variable, and it should be a numeric variable because I am using the plus plus. Moreover, I am using the class name to access the variable. Could you agree with me that it's going to be a static variable? A static variable in the class student. Why? Because I only want one counter in the full class. Name and ID are going to be variables for the object. Different objects are going to have different names and different IDs. But counter, there is going to be only one counter. And as you can notice, I am increasing counter every time that I create an object. So that counter inside of the class student is going to know how many students I have created. It's not a counter per student. It's a counter for all the class. Yes, name and ID non-static, because we want different names and different IDs for different students. If you make name or ID static, what is going to happen is all your students are going to have the same name. Which one? The name of the last student that you registered. I am sure that you do not want to do that, right? So name and ID, non-static. You know that because I am using the object to call those variables. Counter, static, because I am using the name of the class. At this point, if you are reading this program and all this explanation that I am sharing, ring the bell, is guys, you are almost ready for the exam, and the last 2 weeks works. I mean, we haven't lost our time the last 2 weeks. It's good. So next, I have these 2 objects. What I am doing there? 15 and 16. Calling a method. But I am calling a method that is not static, right? Because I am using the object. Now, hopefully, you agree with me that this call to the method probably is printing that, and this call to the method probably is printing this. I want you to notice that we are calling basically the same method. It's the same method, but even though the printing is almost the same, the change is some of the values. Even though I am calling the same method and I am going to show you the code, the method run the same instructions, but when I ask for name or ID, it's going to use the name and ID of the object that is calling the method. In this case, if John called the method, I am assuming that I am going to print name, and the name that is going to be printed is the name that I put for John. If Jane called the method, it's going to run the same instructions, but when I print name, it's going to be the name that I put inside of that particular object. And the same for other things like the IDs. So far, good. Something is going to happen there. Did you notice that I am sending here a string? A string. And I am sure that something is going to happen with the string because I am getting different results. At this point, I would like you to think like, probably this method say hello in, is going to be static or not? Say hello in. Hopefully you agree with me, it's not static, we are using the object. Second, it's going to have something inside of the parentheses, it's going to have parameters. How many parameters? What type of parameters? Something inside, yes. What? A string. How many? One. Just because that is what I am sending. It's going to have parameters. It's going to return something, or it's going to be void. According with this instruction, there is nothing that made me think that it's going to return something. Here, I want to make clear this, guys. Printing something on the screen, printing something is not the same as returning something. Return and print. Print is put something on the screen. That is one thing. But in order to print something, I do not need to return. I mean, you have been working 4 weeks printing things on the screen, and your method, all of them are void. So void and print, return and print, completely different things. Returning is from the file student sending some information back to this class, my program. So far, because I am not catching in any variable the information here, my thought can be this is void. This say hello in probably is void because it's not returning anything. So void and non-static. I could think about that for say hello in. It's not static, do not have the word static, but it's void just because, well, what the program is showing so far. Now, John, give me a number. Or Jane, add these 2 numbers. If I ask you in the exam, give me a number, static or not? Add these numbers, static or not? And hopefully we agree that both are non-static, do not have the keyword static. Why? Because I am using the objects to call those methods. Moreover, give me a number. Have parameters? Yes or no? Add these 2 numbers. Have parameters? Yes, no, how many? No for give me a number, no parameters. Add these 2 numbers. Parameters, yes. How many? 2. I agree with you guys. Good. Do they return something? Or they are void? Well, they are non-static because I am using John and Jane. John and Jane are objects So in order to call the method using objects, the method should not be static. If I use the name of the class, like I did for student here, or I use for university here, when you use the name of the class before the name of the method, then that method or that variable is static. Name of the class, static. Name of the object, non-static. That is basically the correlation. So they return something. I have this thing here, right? Hopefully you agree with me. Give me a number is something like public double, give me a number. Add these two numbers is something like public int, add these two numbers. One return a double, the other return a string, just because the type of these variables match the type of the return. And you can imagine what is going to be the body for this one, the same that I showed you before, and we can talk about the body for this one. Some print instructions. I am printing x, y, that are these variables, x, y, that I have here. Oh, finally, another object. Now for a different class, I have a class professor. New professor, professor. The only thing that changed regarding a student is now the class is a different one, professor. And can you explain what is this line 29? John.final grade. The final grade of the object John. Remember, objects represent entities in the real world. Each of you is an object inside of the system, the university system. I am an object inside of the university system. So basically, there is an object that represents me, and there is a method, grade student. Grade student. It could be a method that asks me about the grade, and then whatever I put is the answer of the method. That method can return the grade, and the program stores that number inside of the variable final grade for this particular object. Say hello again. So, grade student, static or non-static? Void or not void? Parameters or not parameters? Those are the questions that you need to be able to answer for the exam. What we store in Y, I am assuming here, I think that we are going to be storing 4. If everything goes well, 2 plus 2 is going to be 4, the method is going to return 4, and Y is going to store that 4, a copy of the 4 inside of the variable. Answering the question in the chat, yes, give me a number and add these two numbers are non-static because we're using objects to call them, yes. Register student and counter, they are static, yes, because we are using the name of the class before them, yes, that is correct. So homework for you guys. Hopefully you understand the program, the main program, and I show you the output. This is my class student, and you told me static and non-static for all these methods. And you help me with the variables, parameters or no parameters, and the return type. So I am sure that you're going to understand what is happening in line 7, 14, 23, 31, and 36. And in the body, I am using instructions that you already know. University, as you mentioned, static and static for the register and for the student. And don't worry about the public here. Put the public, sorry for that line. Similar with professor, grade student. Did you notice my grade student method? Random number for times 100. It works. The classes, 3 classes, diverse method, receiving parameters, returning things. That is something that I want to ask you to review. Copy, paste as usual, this code, and be sure that you understand every single line. If you have any question, please let me know, send me an email or something, but it's very, very important that you understand what happened in this code. Hopefully everything fine. Any last minute question? Good. Please review this. See you tomorrow for the review before our second midterm exam. Thank you.